Welcome to New Life Live with Stephen Arterburn. For 35 years, New Life has been transforming lives one at a time, thanks to the giving hearts of you, our listeners. Our goal is to provide you with wisdom from God's Word to give you hope and help in life's hardest places. If you have a question you'd like to ask today, our phone lines are open. Call 1-800-229-3000. That number again is 1-800-229-3000. Now here's today's host, Becky Brown.
Hello, everyone, and happy Valentine's Day. If you haven't heard that yet, it is the day of love, whether it's romantic or otherwise. We just want to celebrate love today, and the world needs a lot more of it, and we're thankful for Jesus's love for us and in our lives, and I just want to celebrate that today. Alongside of me today is Dr. Sheri Keffer and Chris Williams, and we're going to take your calls for the next couple of hours, 1-800-229-3000, and we want to hear from you. If you're listening in other ways, you can, if you're listening on the podcast, you can call us Monday through Wednesday, 1 to 3 Eastern time, and we'll be able to take your calls then. But I know that there are some of you who are listening live right now, and we want to hear from you. Right now, we want to hear from Chris. Chris, what wisdom do you have for us today?
Well, one of the things I want to talk about today, it being Valentine's Day, and I've mentioned this before on other shows, but one of the things I am really interested in, and more than interested in, is passionate about, is authentic expressions and movements of love. Like, what does it really mean beyond the romantic feelings that we may get every now and then that come and go, but in the Bible it really talks about a constancy of love. And one of the things I don't think that we respect enough when we dive into what it really means is how much work it takes. Love is work, straight up. And I can show this, or I think we're all shown this, in the Great Love chapter. Love, the two first descriptors for love is patience and kindness. When we take a deeper look into that, one of the best ways I could describe love as described there as patience, some call it long-suffering, is empathy over time. It means that I'm willing to see you and hear you and understand you and know you over a long period of time. And then the second one is kindness, which is kind of strange because in the Bible, that word is actually oftentimes used in political settings as dignitaries carrying a gift to another royalty. But really what we can break that down to is to care for something of value. So to love another person means that I'm going to be with you, I'm going to see you, I'm going to understand you, I'm going to know you, and we're going to go through a lot of rough, tough things to get there, and it's going to take time. But I'm going to persevere, as the last descriptor of love is in that setting. But I'm also going to seek to care for you because I believe you're of great value. Now, I just want us all to picture what our life would be like if we had someone or someone's people in our life that know us, even in our darkness and in our weird stuff and in quote unquote sin, and to understand us, but continue to care for us as if we had great value. What difference would that make in our life? And I believe that that's the type of love, and really that's the type of love that St. Valentine himself expressed, and that's the type of love that we actually need and need to be called to in this Valentine's Day.
I love that, Chris, and it's a great day to celebrate that love, and it isn't easy. It doesn't come naturally for some people, and the wounds and the pain that we have to overcome in our histories can also impact that. I think one of the things that we can be mindful of is recognizing those people in our lives that love us, and to be able to receive the love that is being offered to us, because a lot of times that is tough to do. Well, I appreciate your wisdom always on Valentine's Day or any other day. I hope that something that you're struggling with, if you want to call us, we are here for you. 1-800-229-3000. Chris and Sheri will share their wisdom with you as well. We'll be right back after this break.
It had become very apparent that some of the things I was involved with were taking over my life.
In today's world, men are barraged with inappropriate content and images all day, every day. Some say that certain behaviors are just no big deal. They're just part of being a guy. But it's simply not true. It's a battleground for every man, and the opportunities to fail are everywhere. The Every Man's Battle Intensive can help.
After 7 years, he just, in one weekend, came back a completely changed man.
For over 20 years, New Life Ministries has been helping men regain their integrity and purity through their one-of-a-kind Every Man's Battle Intensive.
He said this is something that every man should go to. Married, dating, it was definitely life-changing.
Now the intensive is coming to Dallas, Texas, March 1st through the 3rd. Don't wait for him to call. To find out more, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE or go to newlife.com.
I just can't say enough of what New Life has done for our marriage.
1-800-NEWLIFE. To find out more information about New Life or to order any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Now back to New Life Live.
I'm Stephen Arterburn with a New Life Moment. Did you know that scientists now believe a series of slits, not a giant gash, sank the Titanic? The supposedly invincible cruise liner went down in 1912 on its first voyage. Until recently, the most widely held theory was the ship hit an iceberg, opening a huge gash in the vessel's side. But an international team of divers and scientists has used sound waves to probe the wreckage buried in the mud under 2.5 miles of water. The damage was surprisingly small. Instead of a huge gash, they found only 6 relatively narrow slits across the watertight holes. Small slits can sink great ships. Perhaps that's a lesson for us to be thinking about relative to the so-called small things in our lives. For some practical advice on how to avoid small slits, visit newlife.com. I'm Stephen Arterburn, and thanks for listening to this New Life Moment.
Well, I always appreciate hearing Steve's wisdom as well. He's on sabbatical right now, but we love to hear those insights. And that's always such a fascinating fact that it wasn't this big thing that sank the Titanic, but these little things. And doesn't that relate to our lives and just in our relationships? Sometimes it is a big thing, but many times it's just these little things. What do you guys think about that concept?
Well, I think it's true. And it's the little things that we ignore, the things that we minimize, the things that we justify, that we say to ourselves are no big deal, that only give license to the slits, the cracks that ultimately will take on water and will sink us. It's the small things that build up over time. I always hear, just real quickly, it's like this particular Christian leader had a moral failing. And I'm like, I kind of don't like that term. And here's why. We all woke up this morning moral failures. Let's just get honest, right? Like, that's not what happened. A moral failing didn't happen. It was moral slits that happened over a long period of time that eventually just got discovered. That's the only thing that happened.
Right. It goes along with that concept that Steve talks about with relapse prevention. Mm-hmm. It's not when you are completely into the addiction again. It's the first day you say, I don't need to go to group or I don't need to talk to my sponsor. It's those little steps. Sheri, what's on your mind about this topic or any others for that matter?
Well, yeah, I just was reflecting on what Steve said and then what Chris said. And here we are, Valentine's Day. And think about how many couples, their relationship is undermined by those tiny slits, which aren't really tiny. You think about it. I mean, I know the couples that I work with, there's pornography, right? That's not a tiny thing. And yet there's a lot of men that believe that pornography is harmless. Like they found it when they were 6 years old. They've been using it since that time. Didn't really feel it was necessary to let their significant other know that they're looking at it regularly. But when she discovers that, it assaults the very essence of who she is as a woman, and it assaults her sensuality. It creates comparison, because all of a sudden she's thinking, what? You have me. You have all of me. Why do you need that? And I feel less than. So even though pornography was something they found when they were little, it's not a little thing. And it actually erodes the foundation of a relationship. And that's why we're here. We really want to talk about and make safe space for y'all to bring us your thoughts and struggles and hurts around issues so that we can help you figure out the next step.
You know what I was thinking too is that idea, Sheri, how many couples, when they come into treatment therapy and they minimize whatever the thing is. So when you think about those tiny cracks, what they think is tiny are huge breaches in the security and the safety of their union. And it's interesting because we carry around that concept of it's not a big deal. I'll never do it again. It doesn't really matter. It's not going to hurt them that much. But we know otherwise, don't we?
Yeah, we do. I have someone that just reached out to me with a referral. It's a couple, and it's a brain treatment program that they're in right now. And they were telling me that the wife's brain can't rest. It's like when she closes her eyes, the machines they have her hooked on, she's not at peace. I mean, she's in a hypervigilant state. And I was asking, well, do you know anything about the relationship history? And they were like, no, we're here working on their brains, but her brain is stuck. Yeah. And I said, well, guess what? Would the couple be open to coming in? But my idea already is I've got to figure out why her brain is stuck. Like Vanderkolk's book, The Body Keeps a Score, our bodies hold on to stuff. And her body is like a fingerprint. It's bearing witness that something has happened, whether it's in the marriage or whether it's in her childhood or anywhere in between. Her brain is still in a state of fear. That's not a little thing that she can't move through to a place of rest. The coupleship can't be in a place of rest, but we've got to figure out. It's like, mining for gold. I got to figure out what's going on that is creating that stuck place in her brain and in the coupleship.
Yeah, and I think in that those stuck places, one of the hardest things to do is to uncover. It's going back to the Titanic. Here's a couple things, because I've, again, encountering this in my office this week, is that a person's in an abusive situation, and they believe, and they stay in it because they have two primary beliefs. One, there's nothing else better for them, or there's no other options. And so if I'm on the Titanic, there's not another boat that can get me across. The other thing is that it comes with a lot of perks. So even though I'm on this really nice place, and I can't make it on my own, or there's no other options, well, I'm sure the people on the Titanic wish they were on a different boat and could find a different and could have discovered a different way. And if you're if you're on the boat, to your point, Sheri, is that if there is a way to see what was underneath the surface, how much could have been avoided. And that's the courageous, sometimes scary, oftentimes scary, but crucial work is to figure out what's underneath the surface. Because there's icebergs in all of our lives. There are dangerous obstacles in all of our lives that are beneath the surface. And we, unlike the Titanic, have a way to shine a light down there to discover what that is, and whatever is ruptured, that we can repair it.
Yes. Well, we've been doing that. Like you said, Sheri, we want to help people. And we've been doing it for 35 years. I've got a call that I want you to listen to that John and Steve did, who knows when, but it's current today. Terry, go ahead.
Let's go over here to Sean, New York, XM Satellite Radio. Hey, Sean, how are you?
Good.
What's going on?
I got two questions, and you can pick whichever one you want to focus on more, because it's twofold type thing. It all includes lust, anger, control, things like that. So my first question is, how do I make myself not to make my wife like me? And the second one is, how do I only desire to look at my wife, to look and to think just about my wife sexually. That's the two questions. So whichever one you want to pick.
I got an answer.
Okay.
First, tell me when you first noticed that you were a very angry man.
Probably since I was probably 8 years old.
8 years old. What do you think was the source of that at 8? Why you were so angry and bitter?
Well, I think that stemmed from my mother and father's separation in 1978.
They separated in 1978.
Right.
Now, were you angry at them, or were you angry at God?
No, because at that time, I knew nothing about God.
Mm-hmm.
So even till now, I'm not angry at God because of that.
Okay.
That choice. They just chose not to live together.
So what are you so angry about now?
I think mostly it comes from a control issue. Maybe it stems from I could not control what happened with my parents. I'm just thinking, it could have been that. But I've always had an anger problem and a control issue, even at the age of 18. I'm now 38. So at the age of 18, I became very manipulative, abusive, physically,
so
mentally.
You could say another thing is that you're angry because it's kind of easy to be angry. There's some power in being angry. You mess people up, you mess them around, you control. But probably if we got a little deeper than the anger, we'd find out that ever since you were 8 years old, you've been scared to death. There's so much fear that you feel like you need to control, hang on, don't let people abandon you. So if you want to know how do you deal with all that lust stuff, where you feel entitled to stuff that you don't really have a right to have, you deal with the anger. I think the anger will take you to the fear. And you work on that. Almost every sex addict that I've ever known was full of rage and a desire to control. Some were very passive, but they had this desire, longing, obsession with control. So you wouldn't say they were controlling people, but down inside, that was what they were really lusting after, was control. So I think, you can look at all sorts of techniques and stuff to deal with sexual addiction, but if you're not dealing with the source of the rage, you're probably wasting your time. John, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I really agree with that, Sean. And I'm going to pack your two questions into one.
Okay.
You want to make your wife, now let me make sure I understand it. I want to make my wife like me or similar to me, or I want to make her be attracted to me. When you said like, I didn't know what like meant.
Yeah, sort of like be my puppet, like be who I am instead of being who God created her to be at this moment.
All right. Then if you answer one, you answer two. The reason I'm saying that is that once you can, like Steve talked about, there's the control issue. Once you deal with your fear of her being different, which generally has to do with some sense that I won't be loved if I can't make someone see these things the same way I do, and then if I don't have any control, they'll leave me. And love doesn't work if there's control. Right. So you're going to have to deal with most angry guys. The only solution for them is the grief process, to become very, very familiar with, emotionally involved in, jump into deeply the grief process. It's the only thing that really solves anger that I see. So as you let go of that and feel sad and realize I can't make Mary love me and I'll just have to let her have her own feelings, then that solves the second problem. The reason I'm saying that is because a wife that has a husband that repents of control then begins to open up, and she begins to feel more vulnerable. She begins to feel more accessible, and she feels more love. And so when she feels more love towards you, you don't want anybody else. So you get what you want in number two if you face the fear. You get what you want in number two if you face all of that sadness in number one. You win.
Right. And I do understand that all the other outward things, the lust, and all that stuff is the leafy issues in my life.
You got it.
And I know the root problem is my anger, and I know I have to deal with that. And another thing is that I feel that I have to have control. And another thing is, like, if somebody cuts me off or something like that, I feel that person can't get away with it, so I act out in anger.
Okay.
And another thing
Sean, the problem's not anger. The problem is sadness. Let it go. Learn how to grieve.
I tell you, all of us men, we're dealing with grief, anger, fear. Sad thing is, if we don't look at that, if we don't say, well, look, I'm not just a guy out here doing this stuff. I've got stuff under here that's motivating me or it's distracting me. I need to deal with it. And then you find yourself comfortable with yourself.
Yeah, Steve, that is such a good point, especially for guys. It's not that they have emotions, it's that they have awareness of emotions, because everybody's got them. And if you're aware of them, you can control them or you can resolve them, you can pay attention to them. If you're not aware of them, you will do crazy, nutty things.
Yeah, and pay for it.
Yeah.
All right, 1-800-229-3000 is the number to get on the program, but the bigger number is 1-800-NEW-LIFE. We want to...
Before coming to this weekend, I have been dealing with the guilt and shame of an abortion that I had 20 years ago. And we have 3 awesome kids. But every time I kept getting close to the Lord, kids saying to me, "You're the best mom." That voice in the back said, "You're a horrible mother. Look what you did to that child. You killed somebody. You don't deserve any of this, and you're not worthy." To help free me from my guilt and see that I would not make the same decision today, I would make a different decision, and I am a great mom, and God can use me.
This is Steve Arterburn, and this is the story of a new life. After 20 years of guilt and shame, she attended a workshop and now is free. You can be part of offering hope to others as you step out in faith by donating to New Life Ministries.
To make your tax-deductible gift, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE or visit newlife.com and click Donate. Daniel Grossman on coaching.
Coaches are really focused on the future and helping people to develop those skills and those strategies to help them move forward in their life. A coach really partners with you to focus on things like personal growth or health goals, spiritual growth, helping you develop in your career or possibly strengthening your relationships or maybe even breaking free from a negative pattern.
If you need a coach for life, your career, relationships, your health and fitness, leadership, and more, call New Life today and ask about the New Life Coaching Network. Our coaches have been trained and screened with the same intensive process we use for our network counselors.
Coaches use different techniques. Some like to use strategic questions and accountability, ultimately empowering you to take those next steps toward your goals.
Take control of your life and take action to achieve your goals. Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE and talk to us about getting a New Life coach today.
I really believe that everyone can use a coach in their corner.
1-800-NEW-LIFE. We'd love to hear from you. If you have a question or a comment, call toll-free 1-800-229-3000. Now back to New Life Live.
Welcome back. We would love to hear from you. 1-800-229-3000. I want to just encourage you, if you are a woman who has been betrayed by a man and have not really begun your healing, we're going to have a Restore workshop February 23rd through 25th in Orange County, and we are extending the early bird discount. Valentine's Day can be a painful day when your marriage or your relationship has suffered under this stress. I mean, it's a wound, it's painful, and we want to help you move forward in your healing process. We want to help you. It's funny because Sheri, you said that earlier in the show today, that it's really our heart and our goal is to help people move forward in their life, because you have this one precious life. And we want you to get to the bottom of where the pain is and to recognize you can have really good relationships in all the ways. Isn't it interesting that call, which who knows when that call was made with John and Steve, was talking exactly about what we were talking about, those things that are underneath. Mm-hmm. And Sheri, I know that a lot of times we talk about those little wounds, those that grow into infections, that grow into amputations of all kinds of things. I mean, I know that's pretty gross on a Valentine's Day, but what would you say to somebody who's thinking it's not a big deal? I can just muster through whatever the pain is that I'm not dealing with.
I think this is what I would want to say. eventually the pain will welcome you back into needing to do the work.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's good.
that's what I see. I've had a number of folks reach out to me recently that I saw maybe 2 or 3 years ago. Sometimes people come in and they're just not ready. They're scared of feeling the feelings that are attached to whatever loss. Like, John and Steve were talking to that gentleman about his anger, but underneath it was actually sadness. And if we only focus on the anger, but not the sadness, but Chris, isn't it hard to get people into the sad? I think as a culture, it's hard to get people into the sad. And I know I do EMDR, eye movement desensitization reprocessing, because it's a sneaky little trauma tool that comes in through the side door, and it helps get people in touch with their vulnerable feelings. And more often than not, when I'm doing the EMDR, I have people have tears coming down their cheeks. And I say, and they go to reach for a Kleenex. And I said, don't do that. And they're like, why? I go, those are very expensive. That's the cost of your session today. I don't want you to blot your tears because you're coming here to let your feelings out.
Yeah.
And we don't want to stop that. When it comes out, it's what's needed to be processed because there's hurt behind that.
Well, Sheri, you have a term I really like using, and that is our behavior is always telling on us. Right?
It's true.
It's
true.
So this guy's use of pornography and his struggle with lust is his attempt at care. When his parents got divorced, he didn't get care. And then it's also his attempt at control, which is a false movement because he needed comfort. He needed care and comfort, and he went to anger and control. Now, here's this thing. This is a little bit of a soapbox for me because this really pushes on this, I believe, really, really harmful and damaging belief is that we have to be strong and we can't show sadness and we can't show these emotions. And the truth of the matter is it makes us weaker, not stronger. Strength is to enter into the real experience and to then move through it in a way that God has designed for us to be connected to each other in such a way that it actually, grief does two really important things. One, it builds resiliency. It doesn't break it down. The other aspect of that is that it clarifies. Grief helps us parse out wheat from chaff. What's important in life and what's not important in life. I don't want that for us because it's a painful experience, but there is the gifts of grief in the midst of that. And there's one other thing I'd like to say is that Isaiah points to the Messiah, and he says that this will be a person, a man who's acquainted with many sorrows. And so for us Christian men out there, I want to just challenge us is like, are we above our Savior? That we don't have to, again, learn how to encounter the sorrows in our life? And that maybe our sorrows actually lead us to the man who's acquainted with many sorrows that shows us how to do that. Because, circling back to the original struggle, when our grief isn't addressed in a process to work through it and in it, it will show up in medicative devices. That could be pornography, that could be alcohol. And let me tell you, that what I'm seeing is that can happen as work. I work myself to the bone to distract me from myself.
I want to share a thought, in light of what you just said, Chris, and the conversation. When John asked the man, help me understand what you mean by you want your wife to be like you.
Yeah.
Like a puppet and, and he said, yeah, I want her, basically I want to be able to control her. I want her to do what I want her to do. Well, what is that? That's objectification. And I was
100%.
sitting there thinking the porn was causing him to objectify women and his wife. But in essence, I was going, okay, so he becomes his own God.
Yeah.
In a very sad way, right? porn can get you to a point where you want your wife to do what you want you to do, her to do, and then you become God and you don't get to that Jesus grief.
Yes, absolutely.
That's so powerful. We'll be back. 1-800-229-3000.
For most of my life, I've been dealing with an opiate addiction.
Why is opioid addiction quickly becoming one of our nation's biggest killers? Maybe it's because it isn't only those who are addicted who are in denial.
We did what I see so many parents do, is it can't be an addiction. There's something medically wrong.
It's impossible to solve a problem when you don't know what you're up against, and families will try to find any explanation except the one that will put them on the right path.
Alcoholism and drug addiction is a family disease. It doesn't affect just the individual.
If someone you love is abusing painkillers, know what you're up against. It's time to admit its addiction and seek treatment. Call us today at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. We have partner treatment centers around the country. Call 1-800-639-5433 or visit us online at newlife.com.
We just made a decision. We will do whatever it takes.
1-800-NEW-LIFE.
I was sort of vaguely familiar that the 12 steps had some origination in the Bible. I found Life Recovery, and one of the things I liked so much was that it had such a broad appeal. It wasn't limited to just alcohol or drugs, that it was addressing a wide range of problems.
At New Life, we believe everyone can benefit from a life recovery experience. There are life recovery groups all over the country. They take place online, in conference calls, and in person. And if there isn't one in your area, we can help you start one. We have startup materials, leaders' guides, CDs, Bibles, and more, all with discounts available for groups. Call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE and ask for Terry Ward. The 12 Steps have long been a great help to people in recovery because much of the 12 Steps' power comes from the fact that they capture principles clearly revealed in the Bible.
The 12 steps is really a pattern for all of us as Christians.
Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433. We're glad you joined us for New Life Live. To be a part of the program, call 1-800-229-3000. Now back to New Life Live.
Welcome back. We are going to go to a call with Henry and Steve, and her name is Karen.
Hey, let's jump over here and talk to Karen. Karen, we're caring about Karen today, and from Washington, D.C., listens to WAVA. Hi there.
Hi.
How are you?
How are you guys? I'm doing good. I'm struggling with what forgiveness looks like. And the situation is that my parents divorced. They separated last year. They divorced. The finalization of the divorce was in May. 2 days later, my father married a woman that is about my age. So she's about 25 years younger than him.
And you are how old and he's how old?
My dad will be 70 next year, so 69 this year, and I am 43.
Okay, and why did they divorce?
Throughout my parents' marriage, my dad, we feel like at this point, is narcissistic. He definitely has some kind of a mental illness, and through different counselors, not diagnosing him per se, but laying out this is what a bipolar person looks like, this is what a narcissistic person looks like.
Stop for a second. There are so many married bipolar people and narcissistic and borderline married people. So that's not why somebody divorces. So why did they get divorced?
Okay, well, finally, my dad, for the third time, I think, in my parents' marriage, threw down the gauntlet again and said, you either basically shape up to my mom or get papers filed, we're getting a divorce.
And shape up doing what? What was she
being the submissive, dominated wife. They've just had problems throughout their marriage. And they both profess to be a Christian. I believe my mother is. I don't know about my father. It's been an abusive relationship throughout, abusive to her as well as us kids.
He's
and so
hit her?
finally he just said, threw down the gauntlet again, like I said, and she said, then get papers drawn up.
When you say abusive, he's hit her?
Yes, he has done that in the past. Multiple affairs.
Wow.
that he has blamed on her because she was not.
Okay, now
satisfying him.
I'm getting an answer to my question. Thank you.
Okay.
When somebody says,
so,
it's sort of a problem. These phrases get tossed
right.
around, and I, you know what? I just got to say this. Excuse me for going off on a little pet peeve here, but I was just speaking back. Where was I? St. Louis, and somebody walked up to me and told me, "Thank you guys for giving your little speech about narcissists." And I said, "Which speech was that?" And she said, "Well, my husband, and I had a lot of problems. And I went to counselors, and the counselors said, well, he's just a narcissistic personality. It's never going to change. You need to give up hope. You can't change them, et cetera, et cetera. And, there's no hope for this." And she said, "You guys started saying, to me, because I called in, that that's not true. And that there's a lot of people, sort of labeling people out there, and even if the label's correct, it's not true that they can't change, and it's not true that God can't turn things around. But a lot of times, counselors tell people this stuff about borderlines or narcissists. First of all, they've never even seen the person, and secondly, they label them as unchangeable, and people leave their spouses because of some label somebody put on somebody, and it's just wrong."
And the hopelessness that they put in there.
And by the way, her marriage turned around because, she got on the path and did the right things. And so,
well, what is your question about all this, Karen?
Can I just say one thing about the narcissism label?
Yeah.
We did not. He was not. We were not told that fit him until after the separation, and my mom sought counseling.
Mm-hmm.
I was in the ER with anxiety attacks. Because of him, I sought counseling, and the counselor laid out what those personality types are. He didn't say, "This is your dad," but that helped us understand it wasn't us.
Sure.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
so that helped us. I didn't want you to think that my mom
really
said,
helpful.
"Yes, you're narcissistic. I'm out of here." That's not what happened.
Right. And I understand that after you explained it, but I'm telling you, this happens enough where I have to ask the question because people just, they're looking for any ticket out.
Exactly.
And these counselors who never meet the other person throw these diagnoses out there, and it's just, a lot of times the relationship can be fixed and people have a future, and anyway, obviously different in your situation, so forgive my rampage. And
no, that's okay. I can understand.
Okay,
my question is,
what's the question?
What does forgiveness look like from the separation, from the time they're separated? My father has been awful to us kids, and we live, if I say this, everyone's going to know who I am, but we live next door to him. And he is just awful.
Wait a minute. You live next door. Did she leave?
Yes.
And he stayed in the house, but you're married, right?
Yes.
And
our family lives next door.
Y'all live next door to where your parents used to live, and now it's just him.
And his new wife and family.
Wow.
Yeah. And my brother lives on the other side.
Have you considered a reality television show?
We could be on Jerry Springer because it's gone on crazy. I mean,
and on the other side is your brother. Is that what you said?
Yes. We are in a surreal world. I mean,
you're the Ewings.
I can't even tell you. So back to my question. I mean, things have happened. We no longer speak with them. We said, until you get counseling, we will no longer speak with you. He's threatened to kill my mom. He has threatened us to not talk to his new wife. So we said, until you get counseling, we will no longer. We put up the boundary because it was affecting our family, my health, everything.
Yeah.
So things have gone on in this last year and a half that have just been so hurtful to all of us kids. I mean, just emotional stabbing, we call it. And I feel like I get to a point, okay, I forgive him. God, he's your deal. I cannot deal with him. He's your deal. I've forgiven him. I'm moving on. And then wham, here comes another round of stabbing in the back. And it's just, I keep trying to say, okay, God, what I want to forgive him in the way you have taught us to forgive, that you call us to forgive, but what does that look like? And I struggle with that.
Okay. What do you struggle with?
I don't know. I feel like I do, But then, like I said, something will happen, and I'm back to square one with how could he do that?
Whoa. What does feel like you do mean? Let's really unpack this, because if you think forgiveness is that you have no feelings about anything, or that you wouldn't hurt when somebody does something or something like that, that's not what forgiveness is. So is that what you think it is?
I don't know. I guess what I feel is I feel ill will towards him. I start feeling like I want to do things to get revenge. I don't do things, but I have those feelings.
For the old stuff or the stuff that's happening now?
I'm sorry?
For the old stuff or the stuff that's happening now?
For the stuff that's happening now, I wrestled with the stuff from my childhood and turned that all over to God years ago.
Okay.
It's like new stuff.
Let me give you a couple of thoughts here, and then you respond to us, okay?
Okay.
Forgiveness is really about something that's already happened, right? If somebody does something, you forgive them, right? The Bible says if they repent, you forgive them, right? Okay, so that's something that's already happened. Now, all the things that's happened up until this phone call where we're talking to you is in the past, and you can forgive him, right?
Yes.
Okay, but if you step out of this phone call and there's new stuff that you're vulnerable to and subjected to, you're getting stabbed all over again.
Yes.
And so I don't think this is so much a question of forgiveness as much as a question of, apparently, if this is continuing to happen, then your protective boundaries are not secure enough because you're still exposed and vulnerable to this.
I can understand that, but that is difficult living next door.
Well, and so,
and he is moving.
Oh, okay. He's moving.
Within the next couple of months, hopefully.
All right. Well, you're not going to have to move then.
No, and we did talk about that. And at one point in one of our rampages, I said, "Are you moving?" And he's like, "What?" I said, "If you're not moving, we're moving." And we found out that he was going to be moving. And he's building a house. So as soon as that's done, we're hoping that he and his new family will get out. But he has disowned us. He has told us he has a new family. He doesn't need any of us. It's just been awful. I mean, it's surreal.
Here's kind of the formula. You forgive the past. You separate yourself to the extent, if he's not working on this, then you separate yourself to the extent that you're not hurt anymore. And then you go somewhere and process this wish that you have where you're surprised anew each time. When anybody that has that, how could he kind of response? What that says is that you have not come to grips with the fact of who he is. Anytime somebody's done something continually and then you experience anew each time, then there's some part of you that's kind of a little bit in denial because you should be expecting that from him.
Right. Good point, yeah.
All right, I'm glad that you called. Hope that's helpful to you. Let me send you Dave Stoops' book, Forgiving the Unforgivable. I think that could really help you, all right?
Good one.
It's always so amazing to hear from them. We're going to go to Paula after this break.
We all face days where life throws us a curveball and our routines or plans get disrupted. Things we wanted to do are forced to take a backseat to the unexpected demands of the day. If you normally listen to New Life Live on a radio station, well, you might not be able to that day. And on these hectic days when you're feeling stressed or frazzled, hearing the sound of counsel given on New Life Live is just what you need to navigate the unexpected things of life.
Every time I'm troubled or I have a problem, I'll cut on New Life, and there's always something that is said that is helpful to me.
By listening, I have learned more than I can ever express about how God wants me to live.
Download the New Life app for the easiest way to listen wherever you are and at a time that's convenient for you, or watch the show on our YouTube channel. You can even subscribe to our podcast from your favorite podcast provider. You never have to miss a day of New Life. Wherever you are, we are.
I have given to New Life regularly because I have so many people that I am referring to New Life who so benefit from the ministry. I just can't imagine what would happen in my area if New Life wasn't available to us.
You can help New Life Live stay on the air by joining Club New Life today. When you sign up to support us monthly through Club New Life, we'll send you the new member thank you gift of all 8 100-day devotionals, including 100 Days of Prayer, 100 Days of Freedom from Depression, and 100 Days of Peace. There are also ongoing benefits like the monthly Club New Life CD or download, access to the Club New Life video library, quarterly resources, free shipping on purchased resources, discounts on workshops, and quarterly online meetings with Steve. Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Support Club New Life, and together we can help hurting people find help and hope in life's hardest places. Call 1-800-639-5433 to join Club New Life today. To find out more information about New Life or to order any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Now back to New Life Live.
Welcome back. You know, we're all about connection here, and if you're dealing with feeling isolated or alone, we have life recovery groups that are a great way to find safe process groups, and we meet in person, online, all across the country. And if you are interested in being part of the life recovery group, just give us a call and we'll help connect you. Right now we're going to connect with Paula, who's calling us from Chicago and listens on the app. You can listen on the app, download it wherever you get your apps on your phone. Hi, Paula. Thanks for calling. How can we help you today?
Hello. I have a question. I've been with my boyfriend for almost a year and a half. We had like some trouble in the beginning, but we have worked out our communication styles. But we're talking about marriage and stuff. But I just have this burst of relationship anxiety that comes up from time to time, and I'm going through some of it right now. And then I just have all these emotions and really feel like breaking up with him, even though our relationship has been beautiful and God has been at the center of it. And I'm just wondering if all of that is normal or if there's something that I haven't looked at in the relationship that may be causing that.
I have a quick
question. Time to ask those questions.
Is there a baby in the background?
There is.
Do you guys have a baby together?
No, we don't.
Okay, I just was wondering if that was another piece of the story. So.
Oh, no.
So you know what Chris said earlier, something I always say is all behavior is purposeful. It makes me a little curious as to what happened early on because you guys were struggling in the beginning. And then at the same time, you said, but our relationship has been really beautiful and God's in the center. So those things aren't matching. And I'm wondering if your anxiety has to do with what happened in the beginning of your relationship. What is that? Can you take us into what's the worst thing that's happened in your relationship?
I think mostly it was just he being sensitive, emotionally sensitive to how I would sometimes communicate in the past, and me feeling like I had to walk in eggshells. And I was always like, okay, I don't know if I can be in a relationship where I feel like I can express myself, or if everything that I say will be taken out of context or hurtful. Even though I've shown time and time again that I have I love you and I have your best interest at heart. And I'm being single for my whole life, and this is the first time I'm in a relationship that I'm considering marriage. And I'm like, okay, is this normal? And we worked through that, and now we still have we're in a place where we can talk openly about things, but from time to time, it's still something that causes some type of a
So Paula, let me ask a strange question. Where in your body do you feel the anxiety? Do you carry it?
On my chest, close to my throat.
Okay, stay there. If that part in your body had a voice and could talk, what would it be saying?
Is this going to work?
Is this going to work? Okay. If it was saying anything about you, like maybe an I am statement. I am what?
sometimes when it takes a while to think of things, it's because we haven't accessed our voice. And that's where the hesitation is coming from.
Yeah. And so, Paula,
for some context, like I'm 35, he's 40. We're both Christians, and like he is the first like a healthy relationship with male in general in my life.
Okay, so
without a dad, I never had like before Christ. I never had healthy relationships. I went from situationship to situationship. So I feel like it's like my inner child trying to protect myself at times. Even though like.
Yeah, that very well could be the case, because you have a lot of history behind painful male relationships, so there could be a lot of legitimate anxiety. But what I do want to let you know, and I want Sheri to really speak into this, and this is just a general principle: whatever you experience in dating, 5x it to marriage. Meaning that like whatever you're experiencing now, it's going to be 5 times amplified once you get married.
Right.
Okay, so I just want that as a principle.
And very simply, sometimes, are you guys seeing a counselor? Are you guys doing any couples counseling or pre-engagement work?
Yeah, so we did start last week, towards the end of last year, because we were talking about marriage, and I told him, I've been on and off therapy for many years, and I was like, if we're going to do this, I really want to I will really do the work. And we sat down with a counselor a couple of times, and since I've been experiencing this, I reached out to my counselor again. Well, I need to sit with you by myself.
Okay, good. I mean, I don't want you to, you've been on and off of counseling. I don't want you to get off this time. I really want you to stay with it, no matter what. Because Chris is right. There's something there. And if you feel like whenever somebody has tightness in their throat, it says to me that you struggle to have a voice in the relationship. And maybe when you say things, he might be thin-skinned, right? And he might take it personally, or he might make it about you, or he might feel uncomfortable. It might bring up bad feelings for him. Whatever it is, you need to be able to walk into that relationship owning your vocal cords, whether he is okay with them or not. Because if somebody isn't okay with your voice, unless you're yelling, screaming, calling him names, those kind of things, but I'm not hearing that.
Right.
I'm talking about...
No, that's not my nature.
Yeah. I'm talking about things that are important to you. Because if not, you will lose yourself in the relationship. You'll get smaller and smaller instead of holding space for you guys and staying in the same level of dignity. That's where we started the show, was talking about dignity and valuing each other as we're important. What can we send her, Becky? Maybe the book How We Love?
Yeah, I think that would be a great next step for her. And Paula, we'll be praying for this next step. I'm glad you guys are in counseling, but maybe there's more work to do until that voice gets clear and strong, and a healthy relationship can handle that. We're so grateful that you called, Paula. It's been a challenge of, our lifetime is to have really meaningful relationships where we can be fully present and be fully heard, but it's worth doing the work. Sheri, I know that this is a big part of what you do every day at work.
Yeah,
How would you encourage us as we close the show?
Well, I just want to share through all the highs and lows, going through infidelities and, being single for 17 years. And there's been so many times where the idea of love and Valentine's Day has been confusing. But even though I've had spiritual faith traumas in my life, I want to share with you a couple verses. I brought this plant in today, and those of you that are watching can see it. But God did an amazing job of making a plant that's shaped like hearts. And so I want to leave with a word from him today. It's in Isaiah 49:16. It says, "Behold, I have indelibly tattooed a picture of you on the palms of each of my hands. Your walls are continually before me."
Love it.
Thanks for
Thank
listening.
you.
We hope this program has helped you by giving you insights for handling the challenges you face in your life. We want you to know that we're here for you, but you also need to know that New Life Live is a listener-supported ministry. To make your donation or to get any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433, or write to us at New Life Ministries, P.O. Box 1029, Lake Forest, California, 92609. Please join us again tomorrow for New Life Live.
Thanks for watching today. We love helping people. I hope you sense that. And we know that there's always hope if you find the right resource. Now, if something we've said to somebody else applies to you, that's fantastic. That's what we're hoping for. But also, if you want to join us directly, you can call 1-800-229-3000 between 1 and 3 Eastern Time, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Those are the best times to get through. And while you're here on YouTube, check out these other videos that we've done to help people see where they could grow or a different path to take. And if you do that, would you give us a thumbs up on the video, and please subscribe to this channel. There are many ways that we can help you outside of the radio program, and it's very hard for some to pick up a phone and dial 1-800-NEW-LIFE. But when you do, we put you in touch with somebody who cares about you, knows all the resources out there, and they're going to find the best for you. There is no reason to struggle alone. I hope to see you tomorrow. Hope you'll invite somebody else to come and join that maybe needs just a little bit of help along the way. I'll see you next time.